The telephone and the email, you know, um, send something out to this meeting. Thank you so much.
Trying to sit still in that one. Yeah. Constant reinforcement. Double. Well, Kathy. There she is. Thank you.
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. First item is acceptance of the minutes of February 12th meeting. Any comments, errors, or omissions on the minutes?
No.
Presented. Okay, we shuffled the agenda around a little bit, so Marissa, we have to sit through the whole meeting. Now, is there a way that we can get you up front? Yeah. Okay. Hello, now we can see you full screen.
Great. Good morning, everyone. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yes. Yeah.
Good, good. Well, thank you so much for having me and for moving your agenda around a little bit for me. I appreciate it. My name is Brisa Byford, so I work with a firm called Civic Brand, and we've been hired by the town of Mansfield to do engagement around the facilities master planning process. And so would I be able to share my screen and show you a few things?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
So let me get my screen share going then.
Yep, you can see.
Great. Okay. So like I said, so we've been hired by the town to work on the facilities master planning process. And our role specifically is all around engagement. So talking to the community to learn what types of investments in town facilities would they support. So I'll give you a little bit of a background, just kind of on the project, the approach we've taken. And then I really just have some discussion questions for y'all. So first, just in case you don't know, there is a project website that you can go visit. And this is mansfieldtomorrow.org. It's actually home to the 3 planning projects going on right now. So it's not only the facilities plan, but also the Northwest Mansfield plan, as well as the Parks and Recreation plan. So if you go to mansfieldtomorrow.org, you can learn more about all 3 of those projects. But once you get there, it's pretty obvious. You can click one of the 3 and dive into facilities if you want to learn a little bit more. But so we are, our portion of this project is what's considered phase 2. Phase 1 was completed by an architecture firm out of Hartford called TSKP. That was completed, I think it was like September. Yeah, there it is. It says that September of 2022. And what phase 1 was, TSKP looked at 12 of the town's facilities, so not all, 12 of the town's facilities, and basically did kind of an audit of the condition of those facilities, looking at things like, okay, what is the status of and the condition of, you know, the mechanical, the plumbing, the heating, all of that kind of stuff. What kind of condition is this building in? Square footage wise, like, does it seem to have enough space? How is it being used? Really just to help give the town an understanding of, you know, all those different facilities, kind of how long do they have left in their lifespan before they need improvements or total replacements. So it looked at those existing conditions, and then it did at the very end explore some potential alternatives, definitely not all, but it was just kind of a conversation starter really of like, here's some things that could happen with the future of facilities, but they were unranked. They were presented purely as here's just some options. Like I said, certainly not all of the options that could possibly happen, really just meant to be that conversation starter. And so we took over basically to kind of build off of what was created with that report, to fully understand, okay, now that we know a little bit more about the existing conditions of these facilities, what type of investments would the community support, right? Because, for example, if the town needs to replace the animal shelter, just as a random example, that there likely needs to be maybe a bond effort for that, to pay for that. So the town really wanted to understand before they made any decisions on, what to do with facilities, they wanted to understand what would the community support? If we do something, obviously it'd be taxpayer money. So, the town wanted to understand what the taxpayers valued and wanted. And so our approach, this is just a little bit more about those 12 facilities, by the way, that's available on that project website, that full report. It's like 70 pages. If you are interested in reading through all of that and kind of understanding the ins and outs of the existing conditions. But what we've taken the approach of, as opposed to, we could have very easily just used those potential alternatives that were at the end of that report, shown them to the community and been like, hey, what do you think? Yes or no? Would you support this? But obviously that leaves out a lot of context. There's a lot of potential scenarios that have yet to be explored. And so we've taken the approach of, instead of truly delivering like a quote master plan with, okay, you're going to do this on this facility, you're going to do this on this other facility, we've been building a decision-making framework so that it's a little bit more future-proof for the town. They can use it going forward. If things come up 5 years from now, they can refer back to that same framework. And so it's less about a specific facility and more about, we've really focused our engagement about what is the community value? What are the things that the town really values and wants to put its money behind? And then how do those facilities match up? And so this is at a basic level, but our process has been, with that first phase, examine those individual facilities. And then we're continuing on that by building a scoring system to kind of basically put it in layman's terms to the community. Hey, the animal shelter is currently a D, but that just to kind of make it more simple. And then we're looking at scenarios that involve multiple facilities. So for example, if one of the potential alternatives in that report was moving the senior center to where kind of that municipal campus where town hall and the community center are right now, that frees up land to do this other thing. So there's kind of some waterfall effects that we need to consider. But really measuring it against those community values. So the main focus of our engagement has been to define the community values so that we can then develop this scoring system to show, okay, this project, it currently, it doesn't score very well in the community values, but if you did X, Y, and Z, that would take it much higher. Or this other project is actually much higher on the community values, so you should choose that one. That one would be more supported in theory. So like I said, examining individual facilities. So we worked with TSKP, with the town, and then as well as some of our initial engagement was around finalizing this grading criteria so that we could give basically a letter grade or just an easy layman's term understanding to the community of the conditions of current facilities. So it's all of these criteria here. So things like deferred maintenance, how much deferred maintenance cost currently is that facility kind of dealing with? What is it expected to be in the future? How's the current building performing? How's the current site performing? So the building, itself versus the land that it sits on, energy efficiency and environmental sustainability, all of these different factors to basically say, okay, the town hall right now is, underperforming or whatever it might be. And then looking at that scoring system and the community values and the kind of multiple projects and how things all fit together. So what we're, our whole task has been to identify those top community values. So I have some questions around that for y'all today. We pulled some initial ones from the current plan of conservation and development. We've done kind of an initial community survey, and then we've done a ton of focus groups, interviews. We did a few weeks ago, we did 6 pop-ups that were around town at various locations, really aiming to understand what are those values, so that some we'll see will naturally rise to the top, and we can use those as the start of our scoring system. So that ultimately what we want to deliver to the town is this kind of matrix approach with different facilities, so that you can see, okay, if A, B, C, D, and E are your top 5 values of the community, you can see how different projects might measure up against those values. How well are they meeting those values? So that's been our approach and process to this. So I guess before I move on to my questions for y'all, do you have any questions for me just about the project and what we've done so far? All right, great. So then I will flip back so I can see y'all, and I really just have a few questions that I'd love to get the group's thoughts on today. So currently, I guess, what do you feel are the biggest challenges that seniors are facing in Mansfield right now? And specifically, I guess, challenges that the town could have some role in helping to solve or alleviate. What are the things that seniors are dealing with?
Senior center facilities.
And what about that? I've heard a lot, but I'd love to know your thought. Is it just the condition of it and kind of lack of space and things like that, or?
And there's a lack of space. It was reported on the initial facilities survey that it's a high maintenance building. There's several things that would be very difficult to fix with the additional structure. We need more space in the facility. Can't enlarge the facility. Foundation is not adequate to go up another story. The geographic aspect is so that you can't really go out with horizontal enlargement. It lacks a lot of things that could be put into a facilities with a new design. So a lot of minor things that you can't do well by trying to renovate facility. Who else?
Transportation is another issue. I represent Juniper Hill Village, another senior housing at the top of the hill here. My name's Mary, and I hear a lot from the residents in our residents group meeting that transportation would be a big issue if another facility is built, but a little further away, because a lot of people up here don't drive, and they depend on, transportation from here, which is great to have a van or maybe dial a ride. But if we're way out in the boondocks somewhere, it might pose a bigger problem for people to get there.
Yeah, we've heard that one quite a bit. Definitely.
And also, this is Martina, parking is an issue. Yes. So the plan to have us rolled into the municipality building would, or even part of the community center, if we're having an event during the day, like we have the Sparkettes who dance. It would have to be, we don't want to be impinging on municipal things going on. Sometimes here, when there's a lot of people here for meals and things, the parking is horrendous. So parking is an issue. And so we were feeling that being downtown, it's parking would still be an issue.
Right. Maybe worse, right, is kind of what you're saying. Right. So the facility of the senior center itself, transportation, parking, guess anything else, any other big challenges? Okay. What about, do you think, the biggest needs for seniors right now? What do you think those things are? What things need to be addressed in some way by the town? That maybe a little bit different way of asking that first question.
I guess what comes to mind is total accessibility.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And so when you say accessibility, just to make sure I'm understanding correctly, do you mean that like ADA accessibility and that kind of stuff, or what else?
You have a doctor's appointment at the UConn Health Center, and there's no parking on the street. Then if you're senior, you have to go to the parking garage, get yourself in the parking garage to your appointment. It's, you know, it's all over town. It's all over.
I think about communication, that because I'm a member of the center now, I get communication. But before I joined, I didn't know anything that was going on here. So
Okay.
I'm ready keyed in, you know.
Sure, that makes sense. Accessibility, communication, what other things come to mind? Anything else?
You know, I want to go back to the transportation
Sure.
issue that Mary mentioned. I mean, you know, are you that familiar with Mansfield at all?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
You are. It's pretty rural in many ways. And so there really isn't a good, solid public transportation system, you know, that seniors can count on at all. I mean, and I mean, that's part of the problem with rural places. So, and it's also a lot of windy roads to get from here to there. So anyway, that I just want to reemphasize that.
Sure, absolutely.
Traffic is a problem. This is Sylvie. I think traffic is a problem because, as you mentioned, we're kind of in a rural setting, but they've given us a quote unquote downtown. So we've got downtown traffic problems in a rural setting. People cannot get around easily. Traffic flow is a problem through the downtown area. Competing with the pedestrians, which pay no attention whatsoever to much. Literally, so traffic flow is also an impedance for seniors trying to get around. I would put special emphasis, as Martina did, on the parking area. I drive seniors to medical appointments, a lot of which happen in the downtown area, and parking. I always hear from whoever I'm driving that some of the worst experiences they've had with trying to find parking if they drive, or having someone drive them. The parking center does not work for senior citizens in any way whatsoever.
Sure. Yeah, one of the things we heard a lot a few weeks ago when we did those pop-ups that I mentioned was the traffic issue for sure, but also specifically around like when the high school gets out and then all the buses roll out, right? That seemed to be a big problem for a lot of people. Okay. Well, let's shift a little bit towards kind of thinking of the future. I mean, what do you hope for the future of seniors in Mansfield? Like, what are your big hopes and dreams? Oh, go ahead.
Priska, can I say something?
Yes, absolutely.
Martina, this is Martina again. So I'm an advocate for senior housing in the town of Mansfield. And right now, Juniper Hill Village is it's the major senior housing project in Mansfield. One of the proposals was that we would get some senior apartments over at the school, which is Northwest, but what's the name of it now?
Dorothy Goodwin.
Dorothy, and I don't know how many proposed units there were, maybe 60 something, maybe or less. But anyway, some of us feel that that's not enough. That's not adequate enough. Also, it's on the other side of town, so you're putting seniors away from what's going on. So senior housing right now is an issue in this town. A lot of people need to live somewhere.
Sure.
And with the new HUD regulations that are coming up, for some people, Juniper Hill, they will not be able to live there.
Okay. Yeah, it leaves a big gap still. Yeah, I mean, on the housing topic, you know, you mentioned Goodwin being kind of on the total other side of town. So if you could just wave a magic wand and pick an ideal location, where would that be?
I haven't thought about it. I don't. Interesting.
The ideal locations are now being taken up by what's probably going to turn into more student housing. They may not be designated at this point for student housing, but we all know that that's what they're going to end up being. And basically it adds to the traffic, it adds to pedestrian traffic. And there goes, would be some age-related senior housing.
Okay.
That isn't going to happen.
I personally would like to see more senior housing closer to the Willimantic border, but that's just me, only because so many people, that's where a lot of the shopping does really take place. I think that's, once again, it's closer to the hospital, but I don't know of an ideal location for that.
Okay. What other like big ideas that if you could just wave a magic wand and accomplish something for seniors, what would you do?
That takes some thought.
Sure. Well, think on that. We can come back to it. So we'll pause on that one. Oh, did someone have an idea? Okay. Well, keep thinking about that. We'll loop back.
I had an idea.
Okay. Yeah.
Build an apartment building in the middle of Eastbrook Mall for seniors.
Okay.
Good idea.
That's a great idea.
So take the center of the mall, build a 4 or 5 story building or whatever on the outside, backside, whatever. You got water, you got sewer, you're close to Willimantic, you're close to Big Y, you're close to everything, and just use that space and try and go up or up and out.
Sure. Yeah, there's a lot of unused space there with all the parking and stuff. That makes sense.
It's a great idea.
And you'd be close to the hospital.
Hey, David.
Okay. So what, if you just had to kind of sum up what the town of Mansfield values, like what community values really define Mansfield, is there anything that immediately starts coming to mind for you?
UConn.
Okay.
I mean, that's number one in this town.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Attention, they get the money, they get the housing. That's it.
Sure.
And the seniors are sucking hind.
Yeah.
Okay,
that doesn't mean it's a good value though.
Yeah, what are your thoughts there? I mean, obviously valuing education is great, I guess. What are your thoughts on that?
Me personally, I think we value UConn more than we do education, the people in town, the things on the real heart of the town. And our focus is on UConn and this, that, and the other. And I don't think that's right. I think we should be valuing the people in town.
Yeah, no, that's a good point of UConn, the institution, valuing that more than like just the principle of education. That's a really good point.
And I know that the slogan is Mansfield, a place to grow. And I know that the town wants to focus on family, but it seems to be slow focusing on families and definitely almost at a standstill focusing on seniors.
Okay.
And I think when I went to the meeting that you had, a couple of them, some of the younger family people are just, there's no place for them to live here.
Right.
Problem that the cost of living here is, so.
Absolutely. Yeah. We ran into that a lot of just being priced out basically because of UConn in a way and student renters, you know? And so there is not that space for just kind of your average working family. I was encouraged in that when we did those pop-ups, we spoke to some students, and we had kind of a little exercise. Maybe if some of you went, you might remember, but it's basically place sticky dots on your top 3 values. Like, what do you value most? And there was one student who placed it on family housing and affordable housing. And his comment was like, if this town doesn't have families, it will die. So I was like encouraged that a student himself recognized that, even though he wasn't from Mansfield. But yeah, we've heard that quite a bit. So if I'm understanding correctly, families and seniors, it sounds like what you're saying is that those things are values, but there's not really much being done that kind of matches with that value. Would that be correct?
And we are the town. It's not the students. We are the town.
Right. Absolutely.
I think it's also important that when we build a facility that consider, because right now we're on a bus line. You know, we have the van here for to take people to medical appointments. We have dollar ride. So keep those in the community is really important for people to get rides to the senior center. So I think that should be definitely looked at.
Sure. Did anyone have any other magic wand, big ideas that they've thought of? Okay, just checking, just wanted to check. So any other values, I guess, that we haven't talked about? So we've talked about UConn and education in a way, but then really families and seniors and public transportation. I guess anything else that you think really kind of defines the community?
There is value in open space.
Okay, sure.
So we are more intentional than some of the other towns around us.
Mm-hmm. Great. Now, my last question, I kind of just want to pick your brains and just kind of get maybe gut reactions. So if this is a hypothetical situation, but let's say that the town, specifically with the senior center, has 2 options, and they're going to do one of those options. They're either going to tear down the current senior, totally build new where it is, or use and maybe expand or evolve upon the community center in some way so that it has space for seniors. Of those 2 options, like what are your gut reactions when you hear those?
If they were to tear down the current senior center, what would they use the land for?
They would build new right there. So they would just tear down the current one and then build a brand new one in the
But
same
if they
place.
use the town, if they put it up near the community center, what would they do with the old?
I don't know. That could maybe that's part of the question of if you had ideas. Just trying to get a sense of like the senior center itself, you know, what gut feelings exist out there, because we've heard kind of both things. We've heard from some seniors that, oh, that sounds great, kind of moving it to the community center. We've also heard very much the opposite of no, because the location that it's in right now is really critical for seniors being able to actually access it.
But part of the problem of building on the present site is that there's no place to go any bigger. That's part of the problem right now.
Told, right?
Mhm.
Oh, there's no.
So we're stuck with the same size, which doesn't address the main problem of needing more space.
Sure.
We
That's a good point.
If we're building new.
Can we go up?
Yeah, we building new, but you still have the surrounding confines. Where is your parking space there?
Right, yeah.
Exactly.
Sure. Yeah, there are certainly limitations, but let's say that you can go as high as you want.
Yeah, again, if you can solve the parking problem, that would be great. This is a good location, except.
Okay.
And being,
How about basement parking? Can we also go down as well as up? An underground garage would help us a lot.
That's very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
And what isn't?
I think being part of the community center, there again, we're talking about congestion. It's not far from here, which is a good thing. But you know, over there, even sometimes it's just very, very crowded to try and find a parking space.
Sure. Nancy, were you going to say something earlier?
Well, I just saying, it was my impression that the current location is not a good location for a lot of reasons, not just, am I wrong on that? Other people?
That's what we were told, Nancy.
Yeah, that maybe drainage or something like that. But I can't remember the exact reasons, but I didn't even think that was kind of an option. You know, I kind of like the idea, except for the parking issue, which is really a problem, of the senior center being near the community center, because there are two different sets of seniors. It seems like the people that go to the senior center, and then the people that go more active go to the community center. So I kind of like the idea of merging those, you know, to the mutual benefit. But once again, you know, there is a parking issue, you know, so.
Sure. No, that's a really good point, though, about the kind of two types of seniors. That's a really good point.
But once again, I'm confused about the current location, whether or not that is even a doable thing. Maybe somebody a little bit more, you know, informed can tell me.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an architect, so I don't know the logistics of that. It's just really more asking about just kind of location wise gut reactions, you know, how you feel about that. Because like I said, we've heard some very strong opinions of please don't move it. Like the location as it is great. And if you moved it even just a little bit further, would be a big issue. Okay.
A very trivial point. We have a group here that likes to garden, and they use the little nooks and crannies all around this building to beautify it. It wouldn't take much if it was in the initial plan to include a few feet of ground around it rather than have the sidewalks right up to the building and no space.
Sure. So more intentional space for that, right?
And also building a center that is senior friendly. The subcommittee was talking about like having a portico so that you could drop people off where the rain and the snow is not getting on people. We've looked at, the subcommittee has looked at another architect's conception of what a senior center should have in it. And also John has had a study about the kind of HVAC system you need to have. So there are people out there thinking about what a senior center should look like.
I put in a 2 cents worth in terms of the HVAC system. We certainly have had our fill of airborne viruses. Senior center, wherever it is, should be designed to minimize the transmission of airborne viruses. CDC now recommends 3 or 4 air changes an hour. But there's some research from a Connecticut researcher studying the flow of viral particles in a room. So that has nothing to do with code. That's the whole time we get some input there. So the vents are in the correct position to minimize the transmission of airborne viruses.
Yeah.
I think it would be worth a little extra effort to make sure it's as good as it can be.
Absolutely. No, that's a great point. I mean, 5 years ago, who would have guessed that those are the things that we're talking about, right? That's a good point. Okay. So those, oh, go ahead.
I'd like to see it have a very low carbon footprint.
Okay, so that's important too. Sure. Great. Okay. So I want to be respectful of your time. So I don't have any other questions, but if you have any questions for me, I'd love to answer them.
What's the next step in the process now?
Yeah, so we are pretty much done with our engagement around the community values. I think this was one of our last focus groups that we were doing. And so we have a lot of input really over the last, see, our first open house was in July of last year. So what is that, the last 8-9 months maybe, that we are working now to compile and kind of see what rises to the top. What are the values that keep continually getting mentioned by a lot of different groups, a lot of different demographics, so that we can finalize that value set of, okay, these seem to be the most important, I think like 5 to 7 values in the community. And then once that's finalized, that's when we'll shift into scoring. So, okay, we'll score all the current facilities against those values and see kind of where they stack up. We'll then score some of those potential alternatives that were listed in that first report. We'll score those to show, okay, if you were to do this, that meets the values really well, or it's actually really low on this value. So what could be done to maybe improve that, and give that final decision-making framework to the town. So we're actually really close with kind of being done with this phase 2, just wrapping up that scoring to be able to build that framework, and that way the town has it and can kind of run with it. And hopefully the idea is that it's future-proof. So we're very close to the end now. Great. Well, if you have any other questions, just let, I was coordinating with Jessica, let her know, and she can email them to me. I'd be happy to answer them via email. Yeah, and so if anything comes to mind, maybe later today, you're like, oh, I wish I would have asked that. Let her know and she can send them to me. Like I said, that project website is mansfieldtomorrow.org. So if you haven't gone there, go check it out, see what's you know, what's up there. There's that full report from TSKP. There's some reports about the engagement that we've done so far. And then we're kind of consolidating things right now, so it'll get updated soon with some more information. But otherwise, that's all I have for y'all today. So I appreciate your time and hope you have a good rest of your Monday.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Bye. Thanks. Bye.
Okay.
Thank you. That was good.
Yeah, we should.
Like she said, if there's other things that pop up, just email them to me and I'll wait a couple days and then I can send her a list of other questions.
Okay, with your permission, I'd like to change the agenda a little bit and have Brenda introduce herself. She's a potential COA member, so she's thinking about maybe joining. So you would introduce yourself?
Well, my name is Brenda Todorakis. I live at 2 Oakwood Road in Storrs, Connecticut, which is the Rolling Hills community, 15 number. Was born and raised in Palmdale, Wyoming, New York. Worked for the state of New York for many years. My husband's originally from Milford, Connecticut. So his sister moved to Waterbury and said it's really a good place to be. So we moved to Waterbury, lived in Waterbury for about 15 years. And a year and a half ago, we moved up to Rolling Hills. I think it's beautiful. I like it because it's peaceful and quiet. Although I never knew about all the building until after I was already moved in. I somewhat against a lot of this building. We want to just make it, they want to make it like Waterbury. Buildings, I think it's far too many buildings for an area that's so beautiful, which should have parks and new country, things like that. I was interested in joining the committee here. I did join go to Mansfield Academy, which took me around a lot of Mansfield to learn a lot of points of interest, things that I guess people would like to know about the community. I'm married, I have a husband. I don't know, do you have any questions for me?
I'm glad you said how to pronounce your last name.
Usually this is T word, so just Brenda is fine. But I would enjoy joining this. I don't have a background in a lot of the things they were talking about, but I'm interested in the community. I didn't attend a lot of the meetings, but all of the things that were on the table for all the building that they were doing. So I went to a great majority of the community meetings in town hall. I got to see the board there. Got to see the builders and and things like that. So it's very interesting to see. And I don't know what else I should say or could say, but if you do have any questions.
Any questions? No. Okay. You're more than welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but you're not obligated to.
I'd love to.
Okay. I've got the whole, okay, I'm sorry, ready to go. Thanks for reminding me.
Not really about me, but just when I was listening to the young lady speak, and she was saying about tearing down the center here and then rebuilding it. And my thought was, what happens to all the seniors? Where do they go during that time? I mean, by the time they get somebody to propose all of that and build all of that and everything, is there a plan on what the seniors do and all that time? How would it be a couple of years? Has anybody thought of that?
Hopefully they'll give us a place to call school or something like that.
I think that's what they were planning, like as they tear things down, housing people in different places.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're
That's usually what.
on the master plan.
Because I do want to say, later, I didn't know the background of, well, I think you already said this, some kind of a plan. just like the adjustment, I'm thinking, no, it's gonna be a while if they do that.
Yeah.
before it's coming out.
Okay, our understanding is that, well, my understanding, that this is off the board, this is.
That was always the
They're
understanding.
not even thinking about doing what they did. The last thing I heard, if they want to build apartments here, the last thing I saw, they want to use this for some kind of apartment house or
I think
something.
they want too many apartments in this area. I came up to be a nice, peaceful, quiet area, and all I keep hearing is building, building, building.
Yeah, there is a push in this town to not do more high density housing. That's the way it's going. People don't like it, like open space.
Yes.
We were always fighting on.
Yeah, you gotta do a fair bit of driving to get a place where you can see safe. The single families are not as opposed to as way out apartment buildings. We were a farm community. Yeah.
Okay.
When I moved there.
From to you, and you can also probably have it in there anyway, but an update on what the plans to replace Allison are, or how they coming along.
Sure. So basically the last couple of weeks, I've been just trying to figure out all of the ins and the outs of the facility. People keep telling me their names, which is wonderful. And then I turn around and I'm like, I have no idea. So it will take me a little while. I apologize. I am trying. But you know, definitely finding out some of the things that are happening, finding out from people who are saying, you know, this is what we like, or this is what we would like to see more of. So taking all of those into consideration. Right now we have Peggy McCarthy, who is filling in 1 day a week for Mary Flood, who is out. So she's helping with some of the programming things. Brianka, who I think probably many of you know, new as of January. So again, there's a lot of new faces here. So we're you know, trying to make sure that we are touching on all of the things that have been really good and really successful, and at the same time listening to what is needed so that we can move forward and bring you some new programs as well. With the Human Services Director position, I do know that it has been posted. I do not know yet if there have been dates selected for the interview process. So I believe it is open until filled. So it's not a finite date for that. So that's where we are with that.
You got thrown into on that.
Okay. That's one of
still smiling.
That's one of the things I like to do is I like to say that I'm a problem solver.
Well, it's a new way to grow.
Yeah.
Together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Questions for Jessica? Okay, thank you. We don't have a WRTD representative anymore. Any additional thoughts on what we should do about that? Should we try and get somebody from here? Already filled there?
It's already filled, I was told.
I know that Heather, our resident service coordinator up at Jumper Hill Village, has sent another email to Linda, who's a director at WRTD, come and talk to us again. So if I find out that date, I mean, I'm sure it wouldn't be a problem if any of you want to attend. Just tell them, and you have any questions for them, any concerns, you can do that.
When is that, Mary?
I don't know yet. I didn't see Heather today, so I'll ask her again if she got any response from her. And I'll let you know.
Okay, the WRTD thing is not just for the seniors.
Right.
That's what you have to understand.
Right.
It's a representative for the whole town.
Right.
Okay, and so it's not an easy job as you think, but I don't even know how long I was there. I mean, I don't even know more. Okay, did we get a hold of this guy? This sort of, can you find out who it is? the new representative that's, he's the only kid.
Someone knew who it is, and that his name, but I couldn't remember.
I don't remember.
I thought Allison had said his name at the
Yes.
last meeting.
Yes, yeah.
I don't remember. But this is what we have to get a hold of him and have him come over here and, you know, tell him what we want. You know, I mean, if it was just a representative from us, I'd be like, I would have stayed for the whole town. No, you get into too much. Okay.
Then we find out who it is and invite them to,
I'll look into that.
okay?
So, see what's availability.
Yeah, I think we have the next couple meeting dates, so is everybody willing, interested in doing that?
Yep.
What's a consensus?
Yep.
So you'll start the ball rolling with that? Okay, housing representatives. Well, you're first on the list.
Okay. We're just looking forward to the St. Patrick's Day dinner that Sun is going to put on. Everyone in this company putting on, they're not going to be putting it on. And outside of that, there's really nothing going on.
They're taking advantage of the mud to dig into the ground and getting ready for all homestead.
Well, that's
Up and down all the streets, heavy machinery, rumbling and all hours almost.
Yeah, downfalls a little bit.
Yeah, they're gonna put a house up
Oh, yeah. We will have over, I would say maybe 210 houses.
How many?
210.
That's how many lots there are. And there will not be a vacant one.
They're in, we're making money.
Of course.
Okay, we have no representative from Glen Ridge. Junior Patel.
Okay, first I want to thank all of you. At our last residents meeting, you drafted a letter on my behalf, thanking me for what I do here to represent Jumper Hill Village. So I appreciate all of you being part of that. So I thank you so much. And I really like doing this. So as long as I can still do it, I will. So thank you again, everybody. We got a few things going on. UConn Care Program. Again, UConn students pair up one of them to one of us of any interest. It's an hour long. Just any thoughts of what they'd like to do. Maybe play a game. Hopefully the weather comes. We can get outdoors, maybe take a walk, sit out in the back by the pavilion. So there's some things that we're trying to do with that. Let's see. We're in the process, coming up at our meeting, the end of March, re-election for officer of the residents group. So some people are staying on. We have one new lady, Elsie Jenkins, is going to be member at large. Diane Davis is going to be secretary. Joanne Spera will be treasurer. She's still treasurer. Ryan Kinsman is running another year as vice president. And Ron Dowdy, I'm hard to say his name wrong, is going to stay on another year as president. So we're going to vote on that upcoming meeting in a couple of weeks. The welcome committee, we have some new residents that moved in. So they're trying to, visit them and give them an update what's going on at Jumper Hill Village of events, activities. We always get a newsletter every week from the program director. Just let everybody know what's going on. So they get like a packet of different things that go there and different things that go on in the community. Let's see. And speaking of which, the executive committee is in the process of working with Susan, our administrator, and Louise, our assistant administrator, of updating handbook. Last one was done back in 2019. So we're trying to update that. And we're waiting for a HUD like everybody else. We talked about all these new changes, but we haven't heard anything yet. So we're waiting for that. So Susan and Louise and probably our resident service coordinators, Heather and Maria, will have a meeting with us. Shredding, there's a new date on that. We're just waiting for that to be announced. You know, the truck comes up behind our building, and anybody who wants to participate in that can do that as well. Genealogy, this is so great. We've had this lady, Jennifer, I got that paper with me, sorry. I came to a three different sections, talk different things about genealogy. And her third section, she had a computer hooked up to our TV to look up, like I did it, to look up I want to do both sides of my family. So I got a little information on that I didn't know about, which is really exciting. So I'm going to keep going with that on my own and then go down to the Mansfield Library and work down there with that. So a couple of my family members know about this, a lot of them do not know, because I'm just waiting to consolidate what I can get. And then I have a family gathering late spring, early summer. So then I'll hopefully have, I don't know how much I'll have, whatever I have, I make copies and get to all of them. So we'll see what happens there. Let's see. Executive committee has discussed about drafting a letter to the town officials of our concerns for seniors, which we all have been talking about. So see if happens there. Okay, 1 second.
If I may interject, the executive committee at Unionville Village is on board with us.
Is what?
Is on board with the Commission on Aging.
Yes.
And they want to support that. The
Yes.
Commission on Aging, so that's why they want to do that.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, technology support is will be on site. They were on site a couple times already. So March 22nd is their next time, and the 23rd from 10 to 2. So anybody can sign up with that up at our building. We talk about entry assistance, which you know about. WRTD, that's an ongoing situation. Again, I'm trying to get Linda to come down and talk with us again. So we're just waiting for the department. They have these changes now, but they're waiting for Department of Transportation for approval so they can let the public know what's going on. So we'll see what happens with that. Let's see here. Repair Cafe program is happening here April 13th from 10 to 2. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Is that the first congregational church? Sorry.
Right.
Yeah, well, I was like,
I
thought you were
on my look, right?
I'll
write it down. Sorry about that. Add it to the calendar.
Okay, sorry about that. Okay, that's the first congregational church, Valley Street in Willimantic. That's really quick. Is this anything? Okay, one thing we want to do, like here, is when the better weather comes, is people are anxious to get outdoors and plant flowers or whatever. So hopefully that will happen sometime near future. So we'll see what happens. Well, thank you, John.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we get to old business. Items A and B. Let me back up. I don't know that you all realize that there are specific requirements we have to post the agenda so many hours before the meeting. But this is a Monday meeting. So Sunday and Saturday don't count. For the staff to get anything done, it has to be early Friday or Thursday.
It'll work.
It has to be in on Thursday morning because it has to be 48 business hours.
Wow.
And the minutes as well, right?
What's that?
And
And
the
the
minutes
minutes
as
are
well.
within 7
Yes.
That brings up a thought there. Well, you mentioned about the minutes.
Right, I sent a memo to you, I was looking for that, there are some committees and commissions in this town where a staff person writes the minutes up and talks about the agenda and gets it posted. I don't want to be the secretary here, and I don't want to speak for Laura, but it's a big job. So we were wondering if we could explore having a staff person, like Dorothy does the minutes for the affordable housing. There are staff people who will come to meetings, whether it's virtual or whatever, to take the minutes, to make sure everything gets posted when it's supposed to, because we're behind the regulations. So I was wondering if we could explore that, getting someone else to do our minutes so that they can get posted on.
It was sort of an offhand comment that led me to believe there would be some hope that the town would be willing to do that.
Do we know how to pursue that?
I think, Kathy, should we raise it with her?
We should probably raise it with Leslie, who's the interim department.
Would you be going to?
I can certainly check.
Thank you. I don't know where the staff person comes from, but I guess someone.
Right, I don't either. Especially since the meetings are on Mondays, and because there are different sides of the building that are on, we're on a 4-day pilot. So, we are down people on Mondays, we are down people on Fridays.
According to our charter, are we stuck with Mondays or?
We have 9 people who all can make Monday.
Yeah.
We have a lot of people leaving at the end of 2024 season. Is everybody staying on again, or are we talking about a whole new crew to have to deal with scheduling?
I'm 2026, so I don't.
I'm
Well,
4.
unless
John.
Will's 4.
I'm 2024, unless anybody got objections on what's that.
So let me pursue the staff person first, because I think that there are also requirements as to meeting dates.
Okay.
And they have to be submitted, I think, unless it's a special meeting, I think that they are already set for the rest of this year.
Okay.
So,
Meeting until.
Yeah, we have to post the.
right, so the meeting dates have to be posted.
We might have to go to the town council and make change.
Right.
But
We have what, April, May, June, then we're off for July and August.
Yeah.
So that,
it's not gonna be done overnight.
Right.
Based on what Jessica comes up with, I could send an email asking what dates people would be available. So if we have 2 dates that are possibilities, one takes time, day of the week and time.
Let's pursue the staff number first before we change anything else.
Yes.
Yeah.
One step at a time.
Yeah, so don't change anything. I would recommend don't change anything with the meeting right now, because they're already set.
that would be on the new business. We put that on the new business, because we need an agenda change. We should talk.
I guess most of the last few minutes have been informational only.
Okay.
That's another item that if it's not on the agenda, we can't do any business from it.
information.
Okay, Martina, would you start the discussion in terms of the subgroup where we're at?
So some of the members here, Laura, John, Joanne, and I have started the subcommittee to talk about senior housing. I'm sorry, wrong place. Sorry. The senior center. Talk about the senior center. We were planning on visiting Brock, but they did not get back to the call. And the person who was going to give us a tour, they said they only do individual tours. If we wanted to go as a group, they would get back to us, but they haven't gotten back to us. So where we're standing is we're gathering information so that when the time comes for an architect to sit down and say, this is what's happening with the senior center, whether it's new or where it's going to be, we have all of our ducks in a row so that we can say, this is the packet, this is what we came up with, like the HVAC system. These are some of the things we want to see in our new senior center.
Right. The other one I was impressed with is stuff.
Yeah, I was too, but that was kind of pricey for us.
But you'll be impressed with Groton too. It's a huge facility, but it's got its own space.
So that's what the committee is doing. You want to say anything else?
We have our next meeting planned.
Yes.
So it's ongoing.
Next week, next Monday. Jessica, do we ask you about next Monday?
Nope. I'm getting ready to write it down.
Do we meet here at the senior center?
What time is your meeting? And that's the 18th.
Yeah, that's the 18th.
What are the plans that the architect presented?
There are for what? The senior center?
10:30.
Or the outside or didn't they present?
No, there's no plans. This is all, you're talking about this focus group things that's going on?
Before that, when they had I had to leave early and the architect had presented a package. Are they at this town hall?
Oh, you're talking about the first architects that were here. I think, yeah, they're online.
Are you talking about the TKSP that Risa was talking about?
Yeah. That's
So
what
that
you're
whole, that 70-page packet is online. That whole report is.
Is it under the town or the?
Mansfieldtomorrow.org.
They had a whole extensive.
And those are just proposals. Those are not.
Right.
As far as actually.
Right, no actual plans, just possibilities and suggestions.
Okay, that was the last item on the agenda. Anything else? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion that we adjourn to the other.
Sorry. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think we're probably okay on Monday the 18th.
Okay.
Let me just double check my calendar.
Okay. Large.
I mean, I think Mondays in here are pretty fun. So if worst comes to worst, you can meet in here. But I don't think there's anything happening. I just want to go.
We only meet for a long time.
Yeah. So let me just go.